The air in the Grand Hyatt ballroom was thick with the scent of lilies, old money, and crushing humiliation. Gabrielle Taylor, usually a vision of poised confidence on the runway, felt her world collapsing faster than a cheap set piece. She was dressed in a stunning custom-made gown, a gift, ironically, from the groom, but her face was stripped bare of its usual model-perfect composure. Just moments ago, standing among the gilded guests, her fiancé, Julian Vance, had slipped a massive diamond ring onto the hand of her supposed best friend, Clara Hayes. The wedding wasn't hers. It was theirs. "I'm sorry, Gabby," Julian had murmured to her the week before, his eyes cold as he packed a suitcase full of designer clothes she'd bought him. "Clara's connections. They're just better for the conglomerate. You understand. It's business. But this public spectacle, this calculated, glittering slap in the face, that wasn't just business. That was betrayal." As the newly wedded couple began their first dance, all eyes darted from the saccharine pair to Gabrielle, the discarded, publicly shamed ex-fiancé. Her agent, a small, nervous man named Monty, tugged on her arm. "Gabby, darling, let's just slip out." Head held high, remember? But the high road felt like a treacherous cliff. Gabrielle felt a burning need to disrupt the perfection, to reclaim a tiny shard of her dignity. She needed a moment of spectacular, unforgettable, glorious distraction. Her eyes swept the room, landing on a figure standing near the open bar. A man who radiated power like a palpable, physical force. It was Kyle Wright, the notoriously private, ruthlessly successful CEO of Wright International. He was a myth in a tailored suit, cold, brilliant, and completely untouchable. He was also rumored to be Clara's cousin and a key investor in Julian's company. Though Kyle himself preferred to remain a shadow in the finance world, Kyle was watching the wedding with an expression of profound boredom, his gaze occasionally flickering to Julian with something that looked suspiciously like disdain. In a move fueled by adrenaline, champagne, and sheer, reckless defiance, Gabrielle strode across the polished marble floor. She didn't think. She acted. She stopped directly in front of Kyle, who barely reacted, his dark eyes finally meeting hers. A look of sharp, clinical assessment. "Dance with me," she commanded, her voice surprisingly steady. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk touched his lips. "I don't dance, Miss Taylor, especially not with the bride's most recent public casualty." "Then do this," she countered, and before the crowd, before Julian and Clara, before the flashing cameras, Gabrielle Taylor grabbed the lapels of the most powerful man in the room and hauled him down into a searing, desperate, spontaneous kiss. It was meant to be a statement, a cinematic moment of distraction. It was supposed to be a single, aggressive strike for attention. But Kyle Wright, contrary to his icy reputation, was not passive. His surprise lasted less than a second before a jolt of raw electricity shot through him. His arms, strong and authoritative, wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against his solid frame, deepening the kiss until the whole world outside of their embrace seemed to melt away. The sound of gasps rippled through the ballroom, drowning out the string quartet. When he finally pulled back, a lifetime later, his eyes were still dark, but now alight with a dangerous, unfamiliar fire. "You are reckless," he stated, his voice a low growl only she could hear. "You are welcome," she shot back, breathless, triumphant. Julian had stopped dancing. Clara's face, usually so composed, was contorted with shock and fury. The distraction was achieved. The next morning, Gabrielle was braced for the fallout. Tabloid headlines, a canceled contract, maybe even a restraining order. Instead, a thick, expensive envelope arrived at her modest apartment. It was a contract from Wright International. The offer, personal assistant to the CEO, Kyle Wright. The salary, astronomical. The catch, unknown, but certainly present. Against Monty's frantic warnings, "He's a shark, Gabby. He'll eat you alive." Gabrielle signed. She saw not a risk but a lifeline. She saw not a job but an opportunity. Kyle Wright was Julian's indirect nemesis. Becoming Kyle's right-hand woman was the ultimate, albeit complex, form of revenge. On her first day, the Wright International headquarters was a tower of glass and steel, cool and imposing. Kyle Wright, in his private office overlooking the city, was even more so. "Let's be clear, Miss Taylor," he said, leaning back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "You are not here because of that rather ill-advised performance at the wedding. You are here because your file shows exceptional organizational skills, 3 languages, and, crucially, a near-pathological need to succeed. I don't hire victims, I hire weapons." Mistaken identity quickly became the underlying theme of her employment. To the outside world, she was merely his assistant. But in the secluded quiet of their professional bubble, the tension from their shared, illicit kiss was a humming, ever-present static. Her duties were grueling. 12-hour days, impossible deadlines, managing Kyle's complex schedule, and, occasionally, having to stand side by side with him at high-stakes corporate events where Julian Vance and Clara Hayes were guests. At a key gala, Julian approached her, his face a mask of condescending concern. "Gabby, are you all right? Working for Kyle? That's a little extreme, even for you." Before she could speak, Kyle's hand rested on the small of her back, a possessive, territorial gesture. "Miss Taylor is essential to the operations of Wright International, Julian. Unlike certain other people, I recognize true value when I see it." The look on Julian's face was her first, satisfying taste of revenge. As weeks turned into months, the professional relationship began to blur into something far more dangerous. They worked in tandem, their minds clicking with a shared, sharp intelligence. Gabrielle learned that beneath the CEO's granite exterior was a man driven not by pure greed, but by a complicated, almost ethical code for business, and a surprising dry wit. He, in turn, learned of her vulnerability, her unwavering focus, and the steel that lay beneath her model-esque beauty. The inevitable happened during a tense business trip to Hong Kong. After closing a massive, career-defining deal, their guard was down. The high-stakes environment finally gave way to the undeniable romance that had been simmering between them. It was intense, passionate, and conducted in the utmost secrecy. But in this glamorous, high-stakes world, secrets never last. Clara, now Julian's wife, had been quietly working to undermine Julian's company from the inside. A secret she was keeping even from Julian. When she realized Gabrielle was not only succeeding, but was also romantically linked to the powerful Kyle Wright, she saw an opportunity to destroy them both. Clara leaked a heavily edited video clip of Gabrielle and Kyle's Hong Kong rendezvous to a notorious financial gossip blog, framing it as a case of corporate espionage, implying Gabrielle used seduction to secure the deal for Kyle, thus damaging Julian's competitor. The scandal was explosive. The boardroom erupted. Accusations of office romance quickly turned into claims of unethical business practices. In the ensuing chaos, the ultimate betrayal was revealed. Julian, desperate to save his own floundering company, publicly distanced himself from Gabrielle, feeding the media vicious lies about her instability and opportunistic nature. Kyle, however, stood firm. He called a press conference, his usual mask of cold indifference replaced by a blazing intensity. "Miss Taylor is my chief assistant, and now my partner," he announced to the shocked reporters. "Any suggestion that she is incapable or unethical is a lie designed by desperate, failing competitors." He didn't stop there. He took the opportunity to reveal damning, documented evidence of Julian Vance's shady, near-illegal business dealings, information Gabrielle had subtly and accidentally uncovered while managing Kyle's files. The fallout was immediate. Julian's company faced a full-scale investigation. Clara's carefully constructed life crumbled around her. But for Gabrielle, the public spotlight was almost too much. She retreated, her ambitious facade cracking. Kyle found her in her apartment, the shades drawn. "Why did you do it, Gabby?" he asked gently. "Why the kiss? Why the job?" She finally confessed the whole truth, the words tumbling out. The humiliation, the need for revenge, the desperation to prove her worth outside of her looks. "I didn't kiss you for revenge," she whispered, looking up, her eyes wet but clear. I kissed you to feel powerful again. I stayed because I fell in love with the kind of power you wielded, the clean kind, the kind that was truly earned. I fell in love with you. Kyle sat beside her, taking her hand. I know, he said simply. That kiss was the most honest, reckless thing I've ever experienced. I hired you because I saw a kindred spirit, someone who had been wronged and wasn't going to let the world win. He paused, a rare, genuine smile touching his face. But, for the record, I also hired you because you were damn good at the job. And yes, I liked the kiss. With Julian and Clara out of the picture, and the business scandal settled in their favor, the world was theirs. Gabrielle Taylor no longer needed to chase revenge or ambition. She had found something far more valuable in the glare of the spotlight. A partner who saw her for the powerhouse she was, vulnerabilities and all. Her career as a model was a distant memory. She stood now, not as the scorned ex-fiancée, but as the powerful, influential, and undeniably loved partner to a CEO. A woman who used a single, spontaneous kiss to rewrite her entire destiny.